What's going on, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages? Joker back again once again, and today, people, you will forgive me if I sound a little weird because I have like the worst sinus congestion ever, and it doesn't help that there's like construction going on right across the street from where I live, kicking up all sorts of nasty stuff into the air that I just have to kinda sorta deal with. So you'll bear with me if I sound a little odd here and there. So there I was editing my NordVPN ad video, when I realized, this video is going to require them to take 2 days to verify that it's okay to publish, and I'm gonna need something in between now and then. So what I thought I would do in the meantime is have a more casual conversation about the story for Season of the Haunted. Because I have a lot of complaints about Season of the Haunted, but the story isn't one of them. Until it was. Dun dun dun! Sorry, I love being overly dramatic. People who haven't figured that out yet, I have questions! Lots of questions, but I digress. So there I was playing Final Fantasy XIV. I'm in the Shadowbringers DLC, or as I've been told to call it, Fpsplasma. And without really getting into the woods and spoiling anything, though there will be minor spoilers for a 2-year-old game? So I'm in Shadowbringers, and the story is dealing with characters and their loss, their regrets, their trauma. Something that Destiny right now is being praised for. And I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on. I guess, in the most technical sense, Destiny is trying to tell a story about trauma. But here's the thing. You actually have to care about the characters to care about their trauma. And this isn't about lacking empathy or anything like that. It's about characters that have spent the better part of 7 years as glorified vending machines to assist me in being a, for all intents and purposes, murder hobo in Destiny. The first 2 stories that we've gotten are Crow and Zavala. While I do commend Bungie for the more recent character work that they've done with Zavala, we've spent the better part of 7 years with him being little more than a vending machine, as I've already stated. And now we get fed this sob story, largely out of nowhere, more so if you didn't read the 1 lore entry on the 1 exotic ship from the season that is no longer in the game about his wife. And now we have to care about his dead wife, and even worse, his dead son, and all that guilt he's carried for centuries that we're just now hearing about. Wouldn't that have been a really cool piece of knowledge to get back in, I don't know, Forsaken, coloring all of Zavala's actions? The other story we've gotten is Woe is Crow. Crow has spent the last 2 years outstripping and spanking the totality of the Destiny cast and crew when it comes to character development. To the point where me, the guy who's made 3 hour-ish long videos breaking down the lore and the hero's journey for Crow, is fucking sick and tired of Crow. I am so fucking done with this character. Largely because he's usurped the player character as the main character. It's Crow's world, and we're just living in it. Bungie is terrified of giving the player any personality unless it suits them. Even in Season of the Haunted, when we sit down and participate in the ritual, we don't get a phantom. There's nothing that haunts us. Nothing at all? Really? Oh, but we can help everybody else out by killing lots of things and dealing with their trauma. Yeah, I'm not sure you want to send the message of dealing with trauma with a gun, but hey, details! Now, a lot of people hate it when I compare Destiny 2 to Final Fantasy XIV. They don't think the 2 games are remotely compatible. To which I say, if a company wants to call a glorified looter shooter with co-op an MMO, well, you get compared to the big boys. Don't get mad when you open yourself to unflattering comparisons, and people make unflattering comparisons. Don't blame me, blame Bungie. However, even if people don't like the comparison in terms of content, there's no real arguing that the 2 franchises don't face many of the same issues when it comes to storytelling, mainly when it comes to the Warrior of Light and the Guardian. Both the Warrior of Light and the Guardian serve identical purposes throughout the story. They are the player's avatar, and they move events forward and allow the player to experience the game. So both dev teams have the same narrative issue. How do you make someone's MMO create-a character feel like a person within that world without robbing the player of agency? Destiny has in many ways simply thrown their hands in the air and not even tried. Instead, opting to use characters like Crow as surrogates. So instead of having a cohesive experience where the player is more than a gun attached to a camera, we get these disjointed half measures where Bungie half-ass attempts to incorporate the player into the story. Oh, they say it's because agency, but I think it's just bad writing. Bungie is more than willing to strip the player of their agency when they want to. Two of the most notable moments are in Forsaken and with the Hawkmoon lore tab. Cayde and Crow are forced on the player as their BFF. I know a lot of people that laughed when Cayde 6 died. And let's not talk about basically the entirety of the Destiny community who wanted Crow dead on sight. But he's now everybody's best friend. So yeah, Bungie does remove player agency when it suits their needs. So if they're willing to do that, if they're willing to go as far as making Cayde and Crow the player's best friend, why not go all the way? Why not turn the player into more of a Commander Shepard? Well, the answer to that is simple. It would be hard to do. Now let's contrast that with Final Fantasy XIV. Final Fantasy XIV is a game with a large ensemble cast, one that constantly has characters entering and exiting, while doing a ton of world building. Anyway, so I'm playing Shadowbringers right now, like I said at the top of the video, and part of the MSQ has you meeting this guy named Magnus. I just realized his name's Magnus, and he's red. Magnus the Red. My Warhammer fans will appreciate that. Anyways, Magnus is, a bit of an alcoholic. And when you first meet him, he's brash and blunt, rude, he's kind of an asshole. But we need his help to reactivate a golem-like being so we can use it to get past a gate. At first, he outright refuses, and over the course of an hour to an hour and a half, his alcoholism is recontextualized, his drunkenness, his lashing out, his anger. He's mourning, depressed, trying to forget the pain of a wife and son he lost. But the bottle is never quite deep enough. It's something very human. In that hour and a half quest, I felt more connected to Magnus and the plot and the themes running through Shadowbringers than I do Zavala and Destiny. Part of this is the fact that in Final Fantasy XIV, your character isn't just a camera attached to a weapon. You make choices, you engage with other characters.
Oh, I did not see you there. Is there something you need? Appoint another. A captain's place is with her soldiers in the field. Don't pretend you're not.
The Warrior of Light has built up these relationships over the course of one base game and multiple large expansions with DLC in between. You understand and care about these characters, because that's been the point the entire time. Final Fantasy XIV isn't Murder Hobo Sim 2014. But how could Destiny change? How could they bring the player more into the limelight? How do they make us more a part of the world? Well, first, Final Fantasy XIV offers dialogue choices. This allows you to engage with NPCs and give your character a real personality. At least more than Destiny does. But something like that's never going to happen, and we need to be more practical with our solutions. Something that can largely be put into practice. Something that's possible. Season the Haunted is all about dealing with your grief and your trauma. Everybody gets a nightmare, but we don't. You would think with the work done pre and post Forsaken, our nightmare would be Cayde. After all, Bungie understood the importance of Cayde as a character, and at the time, the only character that they could kill off and people would actually care about. And our Guardian did watch him die. But nope, Cayde is given to Ikora in a lore tab. Okay, fine, whatever. If I might digress again for a moment, a while ago I made a video talking about how the player character was what's known as an eternal champion. This is supported by connections between Marathon and Destiny and Michael Moorcock's work. Like I said, I have an entire video on it. TLDR, Destiny rips a lot of lore from Marathon. In Marathon, there's a handful of terminals that are known as the Dream Terminal. They are what people believe to be the fragmented memories of the main character, of their life before. One of the entries is a rather interesting dream. Quote, 761 armless and legless corpses float inconspicuously around the inside of Hangar 96. I say that they're inconspicuous because it is their arms and legs which demand my attention. I did this, or I could have stopped it. Which is it? It doesn't matter now. I did this and could have stopped it. But nothing in nature ever follows a Gatian curve. Sure, they'll tell you that it does. They say that every 5 minutes somebody dies in a car accident. But how often are there 761 armless and legless corpses in one hangar? What if our guardian, as part of their nightmare, had to face the fact that they're kinda sort of a murder hobo? We kill legions of things for one weapon. One weapon that a couple weeks later gets put into a vault, and then we repeat the cycle of killing legions of things for the new shiny weapon. There's something there. They could bring back Nathan Fillion or have Nolan North do a Cade 6 voice and confront us over the deranged levels of slaughter we engage in for loot. Hell, instead of having opulent weapons tied to random chests, have this loot tied to Guardian-centric missions that you go in and play, and the rewards are sunset weapons just to drive home this kind of loot craze. At this point, you've already created a vastly more interesting narrative hook for the player than a vending machine's dead wife and kid that we just learned about and are supposed to care about. Or Crow's 357th meltdown about being Aldrin. And look, I'm not saying you can't do this sort of thing, nor am I saying that I actually don't enjoy this character development, but it should be complementary to the hero's journey, not something for our character to stand back and watch. I don't know, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages. At the end of the day, I just wish the player character was more prominent in the narrative. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Remember to like, but only if you did. Subscribe for more. Feel free to donate to my Patreon if you're feeling particularly generous. And above all else, stay frosty.